Hey guys, welcome back to ScreenCrush. I'm Ryan Airy. So Netflix's live-action take on One Piece is one of the best anime adaptations to date. We loved it, fans loved it, critics loved it, and it's already been renewed for another season. But this is not Netflix's first rodeo in making a live-action adaptation of a beloved anime.
Rodeo? What does this have to do with cowboys?
Don't worry, I'm getting to it.
First you had my curiosity, now you have my attention.
So Hollywood has a long, messy history of trying to make live-action anime adaptations work, but most of them have been total failures. Dragon Ball Evolution and Ghost in the Shell are two of the biggest examples, and Netflix tried to get into this business too. They made 2017's lackluster Death Note movie starring Willem Dafoe as another crazy, cackling villain. And just a few years ago, they released their live-action take on Cowboy Bebop starring John Cho, which was massacred by fans and only lasted one season. Now, One Piece and Cowboy Bebop are two of the most iconic anime of all time, and they've both been many people's first experiences with anime overall. One Piece follows a young pirate named Monkey D. Luffy who dreams of becoming the king of the pirates. Alongside his ragtag crew with dreams of their own, they go on fantastical adventures throughout the seas to find the mystical treasure known as the One Piece, which was left behind by the last king of the pirates, Gold Roger. Now, in a complete shift in tone, Cowboy Bebop is set in the year 2071, when Earth becomes uninhabitable and the solar system is colonized. As crime keeps rising around this time, registered bounty hunters, or cowboys as they're called, are allowed to go after criminals and bring them to the police for payment. The show focuses on a group of bounty hunters led by Spike Spiegel and Jet Black, as they go after different bounties to get by and try to distance themselves from their tragic past. The live-action adaptations of both One Piece and Cowboy Bebop have a great deal in common with each other, but there's one scene on each show that shows why only one of these shows had us going like this, while the other one had us saying this.
You blew it!
But first, let's break down their many similarities. Both shows focus on groups of dysfunctional misfits who come together by chance and form a found family. These groups are in a line of work that's often looked down upon by the public. For the Straw Hats, it's them being pirates who are pursued by the Marines and often rule the seas with an iron fist.
Pirates are scum. They're thieves and murderers.
While the Bebop crew, who are bounty hunters, are seen as lowlives and scavengers. One member of this group is a feisty woman who covers up her traumatic past with sarcasm and pushes others away until she changes her ways upon finding her found family. Another member is a sullen, snarky guy that's a skilled fighter and is driven by or depressed about the loss of somebody close to them. Zoro is driven by the death of his childhood friend Kuina to become the world's greatest swordsman, while Spike carries the baggage of heartbreak about losing his girlfriend Julia, who is now married to his former friend turned enemy, Vicious.
I want my girlfriend back.
Now these groups travel to different locations and get into crazy fights with their enemies, and one of the enemies the group goes up against is an evil clown.
The clowns are nothing but ultimate evil!
Along the way, they recruit new members to their crew, all while confronting people from their troubled past and making peace with themselves in some way. The leads on both One Piece and Cowboy Bebop are pursued by an angry, violent guy with white hair and a past connection to the main hero. Working with the villain is someone from the main hero's past. In One Piece, Kobe was a cabin boy who was held captive on Captain Alvida's ship. Once Luffy showed him kindness and helped him escape, Kobe got to achieve his dream of becoming a Marine. So, while he's reluctant to go after Luffy in spite of him being a pirate, he's forced to give up information about Luffy. His supervisor, Vice Admiral Garp, who happens to be Luffy's grandfather, has the Marines pursue his grandson by any means necessary. In Cowboy Bebop, Julia was Vicious's girlfriend who had an affair with Spike behind Vicious's back. She got sick of the violence that her life with Vicious brought her, so she and Spike planned to leave the Red Dragon crime syndicate together before Spike was ambushed by Vicious and left for dead. Julia then endured an abusive relationship with Vicious before she betrays him later on. She then offers Spike the chance to join her and rule the galaxy together, but then shoots Spike and leaves him for dead again when he refuses.
Were you together? That sucks.
Both shows in their first season with a Marvel-style mid-credit scene to set up a new character for next season. Also, both shows had the creators of the original anime or manga involved in their production in some way.
Person, aren't you forgetting something?
Oh, that's right. Both shows have adorable animals that have human-like qualities. There's the Newsku seagulls on One Piece, including this one in the first episode.
Mutiny.
And on Cowboy Bebop, we have Ein, a dog who joins the Bebop crew in the third episode.
That's so cool, a cowboy dog. That'd be the life.
That's right, buddy. High five. So, when we're talking about these shows and the anime they're based on, we need to bring up how different the pacing is between live action and animation. An episode of anime usually runs close to 30 minutes, and these kind of shows have as many episodes in a season as they need to tell their story properly. With live action, especially streaming shows, it's different. Nowadays, a live action streaming show like One Piece or Cowboy Bebop adaptations have a shorter amount of episodes per season to tell their story. So, while certain plot points or characters are bound to be left out or changed in some way, what's important is that they make the proper change in order to tell the story story correctly with this new episode structure in mind. Now, this scene from One Piece in particular highlights the differences between both shows.
Say, person, if I wanted to get into the Cowboy Bebop anime, how long is it?
Oh, I think it's about 26 episodes in a movie.
Oh, okay, sure. So what about One Piece?
One Piece is a little over 1,000 episodes.
1,000? No way, that's too much time.
Don't worry, the Netflix show is only 8 episodes so far.
Oh, okay, that's much better and much more manageable.
Oh, for sure. And One Piece does an excellent job at condensing most of its story and any necessary plot points into the first season. The first episode of the Netflix show introduces us to Luffy, Nami, and Zoro separately, giving them ample amounts of screen time and giving us a taste of who each of them are. We see Luffy's optimism and enthusiasm for becoming king of the pirates, Zoro's skills as a swordsman and his reputation as a pirate hunter, and Nami swindling some of Buggy's pirates and stealing their ship. And they all convene at a bar at the Marine base where Zoro gets into a fight with some Marines. And this scene is not only great thanks to its fight choreography, but it lets us see Luffy in awe of Zoro. Not just because he's a cool fighter, but because he shows kindness to a young girl who offered him food, which makes him want Zoro to join his crew. It also shows Nami using this distraction to knock out a Marine and steal his uniform to sneak into the base. So in the anime, we technically meet Nami in the first episode, but she doesn't actually join Luffy's crew until episode 8. But having Nami disguise herself as a Marine to infiltrate the base and steal a map to the Grand Line makes for great storytelling when she first meets Luffy, who's also looking for the map at the same time. It helps establish her quick and cool-headed nature as a character and her skill as a thief in a way that's not cartoonish or played for laughs. We believe that she's actually capable of getting the map instead of making her the token woman character, and this lets her bring a grounded kind of energy to the Straw Hat crew. We also get to develop the dynamic she has with Luffy and later Zoro in a shorter but still effective amount of time. And the first episode nicely wraps up with the three of them setting off as a crew.
Not a crew.
Okay, well, not quite at first. But throughout its first season, One Piece manages to make clever decisions like these that work to its advantage as an adaptation. These decisions allow the show to tell an engaging and intricate story that carves its own path while still staying true to the anime and at times even improving on it. But Cowboy Bebop, on the other hand, fails at this kind of storytelling right out of the gate. So in the first episode, Spike and Jet are going after the bounty of Azimov Solensan, who's selling drugs that he stole so that he and his girlfriend Katarina can start a new life on Mars together. And this is pretty much the plot of the anime's first episode, Asteroid Blues. The live-action show mostly follows the beats of this storyline, but everything changes when Faye Valentine shows up. Now, Faye does not show up in the anime until episode 3, but because the live-action show runs an hour instead of a half hour, there's more than has to be included in this first episode. So, Faye is introduced, interrupting Spike's conversation with Katarina to try to get the bounty placed on Katarina's head by her father, which causes her and Spike to fight. And it's this scene in particular that shows why this take on Cowboy Bebop doesn't work. Now, on paper, this is not a bad way to introduce Faye, with her being another bounty hunter and all, but it's in how she's introduced where the problem lies. Unlike how Nami was handled, Faye showing up in the first episode adds nothing to the story whatsoever. I mean, sure, we get a sense of who she is as a sarcastic rival bounty hunter, but apart from helping Spike and Jet at the end of the episode, she barely changes or enhances the plot in any way. She's just there to be introduced as part of the main cast, and that's it. It could have been a lot more fun for the show to take a page from One Piece and introduce Faye separately in this first episode before she meets Spike and Jet. Maybe by having her pull off a con of her own to show us what she's capable of. So that way, when she gets the drop on Spike later on, we're excited to see how she uses her own set of skills in a situation with other bounty hunters present. She could have tried to trick them and escape to get bounties for herself with Spike and Jet on her tail. And by the end, they put their differences aside temporarily to split the bounty amongst the three of them, only for none of them to get the bounty when Azimov and Katarina are killed by the Syndicate later on. This change would have made the show feel much more in line with the anime. But that's not the only reason why this One Piece scene works better.
Whatever do you mean?
Well, another issue is how both shows brought their characters from their anime to life. This scene from One Piece works so well because all of the characters feel in line with their anime counterparts. Nami disguising herself as a Marine to steal a map is exactly in character for her to do as a thief, just as it is for Luffy to be incredibly optimistic and headstrong. The One Piece anime can be very silly and over the top a lot of the time, and characters like Luffy, Usopp, and Buggy the Clown can be expressive in a way that works well in a cartoon. For live action though, this has to be toned down in a way that works better for the medium. Iñaki Godoy, who plays Luffy on the show, captures Luffy's optimism and plucky spirit perfectly. There are a few times when he goes big in his delivery, but it never feels cringy. The same goes for other characters like Nami, Usopp, Sanji, and Buggy. They all feel like the characters that they're playing, but better suited to the medium of live action. And a big part of why that Cowboy Bebop scene doesn't work is because Faye doesn't feel like the Faye we know from the anime. Anime Faye is cunning and seductive. She's all about manipulating a situation to her advantage strategically. Live action Faye feels nothing like that. She's played and written as too over the top and foul-mouthed. She doesn't capture any of the subtlety or complexity of the original Faye. She's essentially a completely different character.
I don't even know who you are.
And look, we don't expect these shows to be one-to-one adaptations of the anime, and that goes for the characters too. But if you're making an adaptation, then the worst mistake you can make is cheapening the source material with overacting and bad writing. For instance, John Cho does a pretty good impression of Spike from the anime, but he was 49 in this show, whereas the original Spike was in his 20s, which fits Spike's devil-may-care attitude and his almost father and son style relationship with Jet much better. In this role, Cho just kind of gives off Steve Buscemi vibes.
How do you do, fellow kids?
What?
Vicious and Julia are affected the most. Now, because the anime had more episodes, they didn't need to be in every single episode, and both of their storylines and lack of constant presence suited the story perfectly. This made Vicious feel scarier, and Julia's past with him and Spike felt more mysterious. But because the story needed to be stretched out to an hour per episode in live action, Vicious and Julia appear in every episode and are saddled with the worst motivations and personalities, like Vicious feeling inferior to Spike and Julia having to deal with his abuse. And just look what they did to Ed.
What did you do? What did you do?
In fact, everyone being out of character speaks to how wrong the tone of this live-action show is. The Cowboy Bebop anime has its share of funny moments,
I love the kind of woman that can kick my ass.
but it's not strictly a comedy. It can also be somber, hopeful, cynical, or scary depending on the episode. It's very subtle and subtextual with its world and its characters. Things can be left ambiguous, but still make an impact. The tone of the live-action show is way more raunchy and crude than the anime, so it comes off as immature and frankly one-dimensional.
Kinda weird how the live action show feels more like a cartoon than the actual cartoon.
Great observation, dude. High five. And speaking of the anime, its original director, Shinichiro Watanabe, was a consultant on the Netflix show. He said back in 2019 when it was all coming together that he gave notes on the original outline, but he wasn't sure if the team behind the show would actually follow those notes. They even sent him the opening scene of the first episode to review, and he couldn't finish it, saying, "I stopped there and only saw that opening scene. It was clearly not Cowboy Bebop, and I realized at that point that if I wasn't involved, it would not be Cowboy Bebop."
Ouch.
Yeah, big ouch. One Piece, however, perfectly captures the right tone and feel of its source material. Now, while it is funny and silly with a lot of fantastical characters, One Piece has always managed to feel like a sweeping saga filled with moments of action, adventure, drama, and above all, optimism in the face of dangerous odds. And the Netflix show nails this balance in the best way for live action, thanks not just to the actors, but its production team. The Netflix show's co-creator, Matt Owens, is a huge fan of One Piece and of anime in general. The One Piece manga's creator, Eiichiro Oda, also had a huge hand in helping to develop the show. It came to the point where he would call for reshoots and had to give official approval in certain scenes before they could be filmed during production.
It's almost like if you bring in fans of the source material and listen directly to the creators for ideas, why, you will end up with a better product.
Yeah, who knew, right? But what did you guys think? How did the live-action version of One Piece and Cowboy Bebop compare to each other? And big shout out to the writer of this video, Mr. Cole Allbinder, and the producer, Srinidhi Rao. Let us know your thoughts in the comments below, or you can add any of us on our socials listed in the description. And if it's your first time here, please subscribe and smash that bell for alerts. For ScreenCrush, I'm Ryan Airy.